All right, Peter, we are here with a brand new, whatever you want to call this. Is this a podcast? I guess we're
I
podcasters now, if we weren't
yeah, I
already.
suppose it's the closest option for
Oh,
us.
God, what has happened? Um,
Who would have thought?
yeah, so we've had our, videos of us with cameras and showing our faces and stuff, and those have been all good and everything, but, we both have, or at least one of us has, a life outside of this YouTube channel, this YouTube space. And, the editing, those things take a while, and we can't always meet up super often because other things are happening for one reason or another.
Yeah,
So, on weeks where we can't do that, meet up in person and, get those big edits in, um, this is a good, or this will be a good sort of replacement for all that. Just shorter editing, easier to do, where we're just both
yeah,
at home and we just get to come here and discuss stuff that typically wouldn't normally be discussed in like the other. I don't want to call them main videos because that's not what this. It's like two different things going up at like
exactly.
the same
The
time. They're
the
different.
other
One is not
series.
more important than the other. I'm sure,
Yeah,
if we ever get an audience, maybe some people would prefer the type where we go in and we focus on one thing for a while, or this one where the sort of the purpose of it is we're gonna hit a bunch of different things. And this is the first time we're doing this. We have no idea how long this is gonna take. I'm looking at my list right here. This could be like a 40-minute adventure. This could be like 5 hours. Like I don't know. And like you have a whole other thing on your end too, right? So
yep, yeah. So I guess we just hop right into it then, I
yeah.
guess.
So I gathered up, or we gathered up, how many categories? I think there's six. We got movies, TV, video games, music, books, and YouTube. Some of these categories may take longer to go over than others, but essentially we're just going to go through them and like from whatever like past week or so, I guess, just
Hmm.
discuss like what we've been. Um, I don't want to say consuming because that's like we need a
It
coin,
is
Peter. We
kind
need
of
to
what we're
we
doing.
need to we need to invent a new term, Peter. That's like it's that, but it sounds better. Because I don't want to be
Yeah,
the consumer. You know what I mean?
it's a problem because it's not a very, you know,
It doesn't sound good.
glorifying, yeah, or
We
flattering
need to find
way
someone that
of
makes us
just
sound like really cool or something.
exactly. I think we'll have to
Um,
come back to that.
yeah, in the future maybe
Hmm.
that'll be the thing that we'll become eventually known for. We get a good phrasing for whatever that should be. But yeah, anyways, we could start with movies.
Sounds
And
good.
the two of us do this little weird thing where every day we sit our asses down and watch a different film every day. And I've been doing this for like, uh, oh God, like
It's like three, 4 years, four
no, four
years,
or 5 years. Like
four,
I'm
five.
going on
Jesus
like,
Christ.
because I sort of started it this senior year of high school in the spring.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
was like casual about it. I was like movie most days, so like 5 or 6 times a week. And then after
Hmm.
about a year of that, I was like, no,
We're bumping that up.
I'm going hardcore with it. So I've been doing that
Yep.
for since then. And when would you say that you have started this whole thing?
Well, I only started for the year.
Yeah,
I was like, it wasn't really a New Year's resolution or anything, but it was a decision I made
exactly.
to,
Independently of it just happened to
yeah,
coincide with the year
the
changing.
beginning of the year. It's, nice and even. I figured why not just make it easier for me?
Hmm.
Will I continue with this after a year? Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes life does get in the way, and it's a little
No,
hard to
I
get a
know.
movie every day.
Oh yeah.
But your dedication is impressive as
For
hell
me,
for
it's easy
approaching
because I
five
got
years.
I don't have shit else going on. So for me, it's been pretty easy for the most part, though.
Yeah,
I get it. Sometimes I've literally stayed up because I'm like, this is happening.
I need
This
to.
is happening
Yeah.
tonight. I need to log this. Um, but yeah. Anyways, also, are we doing this where we're including today? And if so, are we doing it from like last week on? So we're recording this on a Wednesday. Are we doing this from last week on Thursday or Wednesday until today or
Um,
yesterday? Do you like what do you
let's
have?
do let's do Wednesday to Wednesday.
Okay, why not? I prepared for it either way, so I don't know. I could start us off, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah,
Um,
feel free.
so on uh last week Wednesday, I saw the movie The Invisible Man, which
Okay.
you've heard of it. You haven't seen it,
I
right?
believe so. I have not. No.
Mm, yeah. It's an interesting one, and I think overall people enjoy it. If I pull up the letterboxed rating of it, it has a
Yeah.
3.4 on average. So that's
Okay.
decent, and
Who's the director?
people enjoyed. It is this man or woman, Leigh Whannell. They're a
Hmm.
dude. Oh, and I've seen three of their freaking movies out of four: Upgrade and Insidious 3, which Upgrade's
Okay.
okay. Insidious
I've
Chapter 3 is not
yeah.
so great.
I think I've
Um,
heard Upgrade is one to check out.
Upgrade, yeah, it's decent. I would witness it if I
Hmm.
haven't already. Um, but The Invisible Man is like they do a lot with the idea because it's like a remake of like an old, probably silly, maybe decent movie that I haven't
Hmm.
seen, which maybe I should have seen that first. I don't know. Um, but like I don't know. It's just one of those movies where you see like flaw after flaw of like just like there's such like a strong lack of logic. I feel like to this one
Hmm.
for like so much of it, and I guess also we should say that for like these videos we should typically try to avoid spoiling stuff. Like we're
Okay.
like unless
Yeah.
it like really calls for it and like we don't think people or like each other are gonna care. Like
Right.
meanwhile the recorded stuff where we're focusing on like the main like one thing,
Hmm.
we're fine spoiling those. I feel like, but for these we should I guess try to avoid it. Um,
No, that's a good point.
so yeah, the Invisible Man is like I don't know. It does some decent things, but it's kind of all over the place, and it feels a little sloppy. There's some decent acting in there, and there's some CG effects where I mean the dude's invisible and shit's happening, and it doesn't look bad. At least not that I noticed. Um, so yeah, that's my verdict on that one. I guess we could alternate or something because we have like freaking 8 of these to get
We do
through.
have a lot of movies. All right. Last week I was finishing up my run through of the Alien series.
Oh man.
So I watched all of them except the first one, which I had already watched. Um, I kind of do want to rewatch that though, because
Already?
that's a great movie.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
the first one,
Mm-hmm.
because I watched that years ago,
Oh, okay.
but I had never watched any of the sequels or prequels.
And when you
So
watch film franchises, you watch them consecutively
I
each
do
day?
want back to back, yeah, on every day,
I don't know how you do that.
which
I would get
it
so sick of it.
they spoiler alert to what I watched even like further into this week. They
Hmm.
do blend together depending
Yeah,
on the movie
sure.
franchise. They really do.
I mean, it's been
What
like
it
a few years
surprised
since I've seen them, and they're
yeah,
like, yeah, I couldn't tell you what happens in which one, definitely.
surprisingly, I feel like the Alien series holds up somewhat well, just because it's interesting how much of a like they are helmed by their directors. Like each movie just has like
Yeah,
another big name director that just takes the franchise and does their completely own unique thing
yeah.
with
At,
it.
at least for
Um,
the first three, right? Except the third
yeah,
one. The third one
exactly.
is that David Fincher? Or is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Alien
he's a
3 is
he's a
really,
big director, and I may have watched
yeah,
a movie by him in the last week, and yeah, big
yeah.
big names in the first three.
Yeah. I can't say I enjoyed the majority of the Alien franchise,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say um, they were important to watch.
They are important for whatever film history or something, and it is
Exactly.
interesting seeing like different
I,
creative people come in and like mess with the same idea in sort of different
yeah,
ways and like see it to work and not work. I think it is like an important franchise in the grand
yeah.
scheme of
I think
whatever.
they have just gotten weaker as they've gone on, unfortunately,
Sure.
which say what you will about, undying franchises that pump out movie after
What
movie after movie on the same thing.
do you think
Um,
of Prometheus?
yeah, so the prequels, those are interesting because those are all Ridley Scott, right? It's his own
Yeah.
direction, and they are
Eventually, he
very
gets sort
much,
of a hold on it again or something.
yeah, at least for the first one. It seemed he was less beholden to the audiences. I I wanted to enjoy both of them just because like the sets are so cool, the concepts are really cool, the world building's great, but man, it's just like the structure of the movie and like the writing and like the characters like actions. It's
Being
just like
dumb.
why,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
where did this come from? These are all supposed to be like the top brass. They are like space explorers.
Yeah.
They're space colonizers.
Yeah.
They're the explorers. They should be able to prepare for certain things,
Yeah. It's
or
like
just not be dumbasses.
it's one thing if it's
Um,
like a bunch of teenagers running around getting killed by
yeah,
the aliens or something,
exactly.
but like yeah, if they're that people who are supposed to be responsible for whatever shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so no spoilers, but man, those movies
But
are
fuck that.
infuriating. Um,
What was the
I
most recent one you saw then? Which one was it?
Covenant. I watched through all of them
Okay.
to maybe check out Romulus.
Oh, that's right.
I'm still thinking about it. Seems very
I'll
divisive, but
witness it at some point soon, maybe.
yeah, exactly.
So the next one I saw was Bound, which is this like movie about these two lesbian ladies. One of them's sort of a closet, I guess, and the
Hmm.
I guess slightly closet one is married to like this mafia dude, and the two of them team up to like steal a bunch of money like
Uh,
from these mafia dudes that they're like making an exchange with each
is
other
this
or
just
something.
Handmaiden?
Yeah, well, sort of in a way it is. It's handmaiden, but I don't know. I guess it's older
From
slightly.
Italian and Mafia.
It's made by the Wachowski sisters, who at the time were
Oh, okay.
the brothers.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because the two leads, I feel like the direction they gave them was just like say this in the sexiest voice possible because they're like it just sounds like they're trying to constantly bang each other and like their faces and like the way they like even walk or move like around each other is like it's interesting. And then Joe, what's his name? Joe Pantoliano is in this, who's honestly for me sort of steals the show. He's like the mafia boyfriend who's like
Hmm.
kind of aloof to like their whole like them banging each other because he's like
Of course.
the it's not a spoiler really because it happened somewhat early, but like she's like the slightly closet lady like invites the like main lesbian into her, like their apartment to like fix something, but she's really just trying to seduce her or something, and then they like start banging, and then he walks in mid thing, and they like ungroup or whatever, and then he's like,
Hmm.
"What the fuck is happening in here?" And then he sees that she's a woman, and he's like, "Oh, whatever." You know, it's like
He's
he has
still
no idea because
possessed.
he's on like that level of like
Yeah.
whatever shit. But he's an entertaining character, and his character in that reminds me a lot of a character he plays in The Sopranos. It's like basically the same dude, where it's just like shitty like Italian mob dude,
Yep.
and who
Yep.
like yells a lot and stuff, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. And the movie's very good also.
I'll have to check it out. I
That's what I have
haven't
to say
watched
about
any
that.
of their earlier stuff. I haven't watched many of their movies,
Oh yeah,
period.
man. When was that
Uh,
made? It was at
I,
least the 90s, if I had to
yeah,
guess.
96, I think.
96.
But
96, more like. Ha! And it stars, what is it, Gina Gershon, who's like she's a singer or something, but she also acts. I don't know.
okay.
That's what I got on that heat. You want to take
All
what's
right.
next?
On my end, what did I watch next? I began to watch all of the Jurassic Park
Oh
movies.
no, is that going to be the
Yeah.
next 4 or 5?
I've
Are
already
you
gone through them, brother. Yeah, so
break us down the
spoiler,
first one?
I guess I can kind of go through these non-individually.
Okay.
So obviously the first one I had watched years ago, that was excellent. Spielberg master and all that. But then he comes through with maybe somewhat of a stinker. The Lost World is I was surprised when I saw that his name was still
Yeah,
attached as
man.
the director because it's just it's a lack of charm that just permeates the rest of the series of Jurassic Park movies, Jurassic World movies. Like it's hard to get what the first movie accomplished, um, and the following movies. I'll just like stick with the Jurassic Park 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
The characters fall incredibly flat. They are just like non-existent. The action, I guess, is still there somewhat. Like the
Hmm.
I don't know. They just have, as I said, nowhere near the charm of the originals. Not to mention the Jurassic World movies.
Oh man.
I would say they are even worse. Um, the
Definitely.
first one was interesting because
It
I
wasn't
feel
that
like
bad.
it wasn't
It
that
was
bad.
like
It was
okay to meh or
Yes,
something.
it was coming at a point where the nostalgia factor and the reference factor
Hmm.
was still like something to be celebrated.
Yeah, there were
Um,
less remakes in this time, and then by the point
yes,
we got to the third one of those, it's like
and yeah,
the whole movie scene is has become
oh,
that.
the last one was bad.
Oh
I
man,
can't decide if I like the second one or the last one worse though.
really?
Um, just
The
because
second
I
one
know
it's not as bad. The second one, like I don't like it, but yeah.
I I hated
Or are you saying Fallen
the
Kingdom?
yeah Fallen Kingdom. So Fallen Kingdom, I thought was dumber and like stupider, and I didn't enjoy it as much.
Hmm.
But I thought World Dominion was even more hollow and soulless,
Totally.
and I can't believe they dragged all of the original actors back into that movie,
Oh man,
and they just looked like they were having no fun, and there
yeah,
was just no passion. It hurt. There's just an abundance of CGI. I don't
yeah.
know how they filmed that movie. It must have been only on sound stages or something like that. Um, it just it makes you hate.
Makes you sad.
Like I have started to, as you probably seen on my watch list, I have just started to go through franchise after franchise, and I'm just trying to knock them out. And man,
Just trying to power
it
through them just
is
to say that you've seen
draining. Yeah,
it.
like they are.
Yeah,
You
man.
just it's unending, and it's scary. And I hope that maybe in the next decade we find ourselves out of this hole. But
I don't know. I think
I
we're
don't
gonna
know.
keep digging our way through that shit. I mean, the last Alien movie just came out, and that's like the biggest thing
Yeah,
for
yeah.
like the season.
It's so
So
long as the money's there,
yeah,
unfortunately.
it's gonna
But
keep on recycling and trucking that shit.
it's not fun.
That's what
It's
Hollywood is.
no
It's
fun.
just one big recycling truck going from building to building. Of if each fucking building in Hollywood is a movie franchise, it just picks up all the recycling each year,
That is how it
and that's what
goes.
it's doing. All
On
right.
your end, did you get around to anything like that?
Well, the next one I got to was Scary Movie 4,
Okay, so
and
that's a
there's,
classic franchise.
I think there's five of them in total. There's six, um,
I
and
need to watch
I
all of those.
honestly I kind of like the first two, which are made
Hmm.
by that dude, Keenan Ivory Wayans, and
Hmm.
there's like
The
something
Wayans
like
brothers.
yeah, there's something like authentic or like a little bit more genuine about those first two, even though they're very flawed. They feel honest in the fact that like you just got this dude and he's just roping his siblings in to like act in the film, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like the spoofs they're making are not only like they're funny generally, but like
Mhm.
it feels like they're coming from a real place where a real dude sat down and like watched those films and was like, this is stupid, and I want to make fun of it. And then by the third one, it's in the hands of many different people,
Yeah, they got too
and
big.
it's yeah, exactly, and it's like we're bringing in these random celebrities for 5 minutes so we could put them on the movie poster, and that's what the fourth one is, but worse. And it's like they still have like sort of the same two main characters, but now they're parodying like not even horror movies, like they parody the War of the Worlds, which is like it's not really a
Okay.
horror movie. It's like okay, aliens invade us. It's like I
Yeah,
guess
they
it's a
might have lost the
thriller.
plot on that
I
one.
don't know, but that's stupid. And like the comedy is just like the same jokes they've already been making for like the past movies. So like one of the funnier things
Yeah.
that would happen in like the first or second movie is there's just like some random kid, and then they just like get thrown in front of a bus and like there's like they get replaced by a rag doll and it like flies 20 feet
Yeah,
or something,
of
and
course.
it's like kind of funny. But then like in the by Scary Movie 4, you've seen that 10 times, and you've seen it done in slightly better context, and just like every time it happens, it's like it's not it, man.
Yeah, that's understandable.
It's just not there. So that's all I got to say about that. How many of the movies did you cover just in that Jurassic bit, or did you want to
Those
say more
were
about them?
no, that was 5 movies, 5 whole movies that I watched
Damn.
back to back to back,
Okay.
and I would say I in I don't know if I would say I enjoyed any of them. I would say Jurassic World might have been the peak of those,
That's
which is
amazing.
crazy.
Because you didn't watch the first one alongside these. You just hit
Yes,
other ones
exactly.
beside it. And yeah, that is an interesting franchise because it's like only one movie is good, compared to like Alien where there's at
It's
least two.
actually incredible.
Yeah.
Like, why, why, what is the purpose of making more of the Jurassic Park movies
Sure, besides money.
when, besides money, when you cannot tell an original story with them? Every single movie tells the same story, beat for beat for beat for beat for
Yeah.
beat.
They're just always
Like,
living in the shadow of the first one because the first one like accomplishes so much, and it's like throwing all these ideas at the viewer like to for them
yeah,
to question and stuff, and like all of that is just sort of like refabricated or
it's just
reused or just
copy and
ignored.
pasted for
Like
5
sometimes it's even
whole
ignored in like
movies.
the sequels. I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like
Yeah, I mean, the sequels are just about having hitting the moments, right?
hmm
So it's just like, oh,
we need a
evil
scary dinosaur
corporation,
now, and they're in the
yeah,
rain and
evil
it's dark.
corporation gets dinosaurs,
Yeah.
dinosaurs get loose, people try and escape from
Some people
dinosaurs.
want to kill them. Some people want to be like, no, they're our friends, and we can stop them peacefully. And
Yeah.
those
Whoops.
ideas clash 70 times.
Spoiler alert. I guess we
Oh,
just spoiled every single
oh
movie
no,
in the Jurassic
oh
Park world.
no! I could see the comments already, all zero of
I'm
them.
very sorry. I'm
Um,
very, very sorry.
all right.
But yeah,
Well,
I only watched 2 other unique movies
oh
this week.
no. All right. Well, we'll get to them in a second then. The other one I watched after Scary Movie 4 was Kingdom of Heaven, which was, Ridley
Oh, okay.
Scott doing what
Yeah,
Ridley
yeah.
Scott does, which is just a historical epic of like some
Yes.
dude. He's a blacksmith, and then it turns out he's the son of this Baron dude, and then he just goes and fights in a war, and it's cool. It's decent. The action isn't bad.
Do you
There's
know? Okay,
of
here,
the
continue.
of the historical accuracy or something or what?
No, do you know of if you watched the director's cut versus the theatrical
Oh, I
cut?
have no
Because
idea why. Is there a big difference?
I've heard there's a massive
Okay.
difference from people that I trust.
I
I
watched
think I watched the theatrical edition.
okay, the version I watched was an hour and or 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
Or
I
something. I don't
think.
know. I guess we could look it up right now to find out. So the director's cut is 2 hours 24 minutes, so I think that's the version I saw. And then
Okay.
the theatrical cut length is 145 minutes, so way shorter. So yeah, I watched
Yeah.
the director's cut, I guess, without knowing it,
Okay.
because that just
And
happens sometimes.
how did you enjoy it?
It was decent, I thought.
Hmm.
I mean, we've all seen or have heard of stories like this of like someone like zero to not
Oh
like
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
to like
yeah,
the zero to hero shit, and
yeah.
this is a decent version of it. Um, I don't know. He like inherits this land eventually, and he like the moment he gets there, he like invents irrigation. Like before he was there, like they didn't know what it was or something. And I'm like, how does this blacksmith random dude first of all know like, I mean, there's like a little bit of like sword training that we could interpret like more of that happened off screen or something, but he feels like he's too OP. He's got too much main character energy where he's just like going in
Bit
and
of a
like
Mary Sue.
yeah, and like kicking ass and like giving all these poor people water sources when they didn't have it when he wasn't there or random stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't win me over in that regard. But if you want a decent like uh, Ridley Scott doing what he does best, which is just films that are over 2 hours long and they got historical inaccuracies off the wazoo most likely. But it's all for the betterment of the story, right? That's why we do it.
Yeah.
It's not
The
so that we
moment
could
and
tell
the narrative
lies.
is there. Yeah.
It's a decent
Yeah,
time overall, though. I'd say I'd recommend it. Um,
I do want to compare the two. I'll probably rewatch it and watch the director's cut because the theatrical cut was very
was it
like
rushed or
middle of the
something?
road for me. It just didn't give you much time to connect with the characters or
Yeah.
for the story
I
to
couldn't I
flow
couldn't
as
imagine
well
a
as it should
shorter
have.
version of this. Like I don't know what scenes you would
Yeah,
remove from it.
like there is very little development with our main character,
Yeah.
which he doesn't get a ton of period.
Hmm.
I would say that the standout of the movie is the relationship between the king and uh, the leader of the Muslims.
That
I
is
think
interesting. And the enemy leader is yeah,
yes,
he's a great character, I think also.
yeah, both of them. I think uh, kind of exemplify what Ridley Scott was going for
Yeah.
with this movie and like the themes that he was trying to get across.
Yeah.
It's just there's a whole lot of other things to this movie, and it has to it has to be dramatic and theatrical as a blockbuster as Ridley Scott does, and I think he does it fairly well with this one.
Yeah. And I'm gonna send over an image to you, Peter. The people at home can just look up Kingdom of Heaven meme. I didn't know this was in the movie. It's like the dude, it's like the king,
Oh yeah, yeah,
just holding up his like hand, and I don't
yeah.
remember what the usual text that would accompany it or something. It would be like shut up or silence, and then bottom text
Yeah.
would say like
Hmm.
some random thing. So that was a surprise to see like mid movie. I was like, oh shit,
The
that's a
mask.
thing. Like
Yeah,
it's been a
yeah,
while
yeah.
since I've watched a movie where it's like there's like a solid like meme foundation from that.
Hmm.
Anyways,
Oh, this one only started popping off recently, like within the year, which I was not expecting. But yeah,
within the
it's an
year,
iconic mask.
I've been seeing this image for my whole life. It feels like.
Not as prolifically as it popped off this year, I don't think. But
Okay.
yes, yes, that's fair.
Um, and then the next one I saw after that was mid '90s, one word, lowercase, directed by Jonah Hill. And usually when
Mhm.
I see actors dip into the director's seat, I get a little scared because sometimes it could work out, sometimes not so much. I'd say there's like maybe close to a 50-50. Like sometimes they do good, sometimes they do
Mhm.
bad. And this is his first one, and it's really good. Honestly, it's like well shot, really well acted. Like I was surprised. And it's just about like this young kid just going through adolescent life. He's a little bit edgy, and he hates his brother and his mom, and he lives in this like very poor area, and he just sort of gets adopted by like these shitty skateboarder kids in like the '90s. So they got like they're just going skating around, getting their camcorder, trying to pretend like they're the greatest skaters ever, and then they just sit at home and watch VHS tapes about like the most epic skater bros. And there's honestly some really good emotional moments in this. Like it balances like realism and drama like quite well, and I honestly really recommend this movie.
That's pretty cool. When
Yeah.
did it come out?
uh oh man, somewhat recently, like 2018 or something.
Okay. Yeah, because
2018 is what Letterboxd says, and it's
I'm
pretty
not sure
short.
if
It like just does what it needs to do, and it does it, man.
I will have to check that out.
Totally.
I didn't realize it was Jonah Hill
No, I know.
that
It's
directed
I
this.
think so far it's still the only thing he'd done. He did this thing called Stutz, which is just him and his uh, psychiatrist or something, and they're just talking about random shit. I don't know what this is, but it's a thing.
Hmm.
And then eventually he's gonna direct Outcome, I guess. The damaged Hollywood star must confront his demons. That sounds awesome, right?
I guess so.
And then I'll say one more, and then you could do your thing.
Sounds
Um,
good.
the one I watched after that was Hot Tub Time Machine. Have you ever heard of
Uh,
this one?
okay. I have indeed heard of this one. I have not
it's
watched it yet.
it's I don't know if I should call it a stoner comedy, but I think it's trying to sort of be like that, where it's
Hmm.
just these three dudes and one of the dude's nephews. They like go to the ski resort and they get into a hot tub and it transports them back to the '80s where they were at that ski resort, like however many years before. except the dude's nephew doesn't exist technically yet. It's kind of weird. And they just for some reason conclude that like they need to do like the exact same thing that like happened when they were there to not mess with like time space
At
shits.
times, right,
And
right.
like yeah, it's rather dumb overall. It made me laugh I think twice.
Yep.
Which isn't bad honestly. Like you
For
know.
for these types of movies, I mean, some are
Yeah,
stinkers.
it's just a bad comedy, and it does the thing that like all these comedy movies try to do, where it's like very dumb for like most of it, and then at the end they try to do like all this serious shit, and it
Right,
just like
like
does
an
not
emotional
it just
payoff.
does not land at all, and it's like so dumb, and I've like seen it a billion trillion times at this point, but like I didn't have a terrible time watching it because it wasn't that long either, and
That's good.
the stuff that happened, it wasn't like none of it was boring, you know, it was mostly entertaining. Like a lot of the jokes were bad because it was just like someone is fake projectile vomiting where they got like a machine or something. Like I don't know what they
Yeah.
do in them or behind them, like just sending the shit out. And there's like I knew the comedy was gonna be mad, it was gonna be bad from the beginning when like the dude is like working at a vet and then he pulls out car keys covered in poop from a dog and like hands it to a dude and it's just like this
Yes.
fake like prosthetic poop all over the
Hmm.
stuff. It's like oh it's gonna be one of
How,
these.
haha, very funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's an okay time, and if you like these kind of things, then this is certainly one to check out, I guess. And it has a sequel, Hot Tub Time
Yes.
Machine 2, which I'll definitely be checking out someday,
They have to franchise it. You just
bro.
have to.
That's what Hollywood needs to recycle next time. This stupid
Yep.
shit. All right.
We need the prequel to the Hot Tub Time Machine.
Oh, we need to know how the hot tub got there in the first place, because the dude,
Yeah.
it was Chevy Chase, in his uh, old bald and fat form, is showing up. He was like the mechanic who like knew all the lore about it, which I didn't pay attention to because it was probably stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So
you're up, Pete.
on my end, after I won't, I might say it was a slog.
Oh yeah, no, just
Getting
admit
through
it at
all of
this
these
point. Yeah.
franchise films. Yeah, I had to, take a refresher, watch something good for once. Something with a clear vision
Wow,
and
watching a good movie,
great
that's
direction,
crazy. I could
great
never.
great acting. Yeah, so I stepped back into Luca Guadagnino's world and I watched his take on Suspiria,
Hmm.
which I thought was pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
I love him as a director now more than ever. Especially he's had a strong year
Oh man.
this year with Challengers.
Oh man. Yeah, that
Um,
movie slapped so hard.
but I think I've watched most of his movies at this point, and I can definitely say he's one of my favorites that's working right
I
now.
was about to say
Um,
that. Yeah, he's like one of my favorites. I think like Challenges just sort of like confirmed that. Like he knows
yeah,
how to use a camera, man.
he really,
That
really
shit is
does.
that shit is
He's
nuts.
incredibly creative. Um,
Did you see
the
the original Suspiria?
I did. I
Okay.
watched that a while ago, and I
And that one's
enjoyed
decent
that
also.
more than I was
They're
expecting.
very
Yeah,
different.
um, very, very different. But it's interesting how like the story is the same, but in this one it is way more fleshed out, and that is like the main focus of the movie.
Hmm.
Whereas with the original, it was much more about the spectacle and the colors and like
Hmm.
I mean I haven't watched much of the what is it giallo
Oh
horror,
yeah, 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 yeah. I want to
the
see more of his stuff
Italian,
also.
yeah, yeah, but I would say that as a
Dario
remake
Argento.
goes, yeah, as a remake goes, this is definitely up there for one of the best. I do prefer it to the original, um, and that's just on account of some great direction, a really great score by Tom York, just something like not super. It's very subtle for like a horror movie, which
Hmm.
this would be considered, but it's very um, contemplative as a score goes. And I think even the movie itself has some like really interesting kind of um, has a good duality between like the kind of occult scary side and what you got going on with like the psychologist and the doctor and his kind of side, his story, which really balances it out.
Hmm.
Just a super solid.
Yeah.
movie.
This was also one of my like a great version of a, just a really good, well made what the fuck, not sequel. You just said it. Remake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remake.
I don't
Yeah.
know how I could forget that word. It's so important in these days. But yeah, I remember watching this like somewhat early on into my like movie a day exploration, and
Hmm.
this one really wowed me because it was like, oh, movies can be weird like that. Like I'd
Yeah,
never seen
it's
anything
very
like
strange.
this before, so I could easily recommend like this and the original, like both of them. But this one I
Yeah.
do think is better.
And how about you?
All right,
Watch anything else?
I've seen two things. Are you done, or did you see someone
I got
else?
one more.
Okay, okay, good. All right, so I saw The Waking Life, or just Waking Life, which I watched for
Okay.
Sardonicast, which is a
Oh
movie
yeah, yeah.
podcast that the both of us listen into, and I'm sure we'll be mentioning them from time to time.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I watched this, and I did not receive any of the takeaways that they did. Really, it's sort of just like uh, it's like this dude is in a dream constantly, and he's going from like place to place and just receiving random like uh philosophy dumps from like different people.
Hmm.
And that's basically the whole movie. It's just people discussing like random uh, philosophical ideas, and there's no really like order to them. There's like no like I feel like they could just be placed in like any order. And it feels unorganized, I guess, in that way. And also like I enjoy characters,
Hmm.
and to me like a good chunk of the plot like how things happen is determined by the characters, and the how sort of matters more than the what. And so if you don't have
Okay.
like good interesting characters, then I'm like not really going to be invested in the thing. And so since this movie is trying to like you know it's not trying to be that. It's just if you're interested in these ideas and if they wow you, then that's going to be what the movie is to you. And then also sort of like the interesting animation thing where they like film it and then people animate over it, and it's got this really weird, kind of cool, like inconsistent style to it, which like is definitely it makes it much stronger of a movie. Like if it was like just live action people talking and like just saying this shit, like I would not be able to stand it for like a single second because the stuff they're saying it's very pretentious, and like some of it is
I
like
didn't realize it was Linklater.
yeah, it is, and
Yeah.
it is very it's written and directed by him, and he's written and directed some good ones, I think overall. He has a good track
Have you
record.
watched most of his other stuff?
I have at this point. Let me tell you. Uh,
But you would not rank this among his better
I would
ones.
not rank this among his best, unfortunately. But I've seen most of his. I haven't seen School of Rock or A Scanner Darkly, but I've seen the other ones on his top 10 popular on
Yeah.
Letterboxd. So I've seen a decent amount of his stuff, and there's not a single one of those that I dislike other than Boyhood, which I feel like is understandable
Hmm.
because a lot of people got mixed feelings about that one. Um, but yeah, Waking Life, it's like some of the ideas like I thought of like 8 years ago when I was young, and then I realized, oh, that's dumb. And then they say it in this, and then but like most of it is sort of interesting, but it's just said in like an annoying way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um,
It doesn't get deep enough or as like nuanced
yeah, it's
as
like sort
it
of
perhaps should be.
it thinks it's bigger than it is what I'm saying. And it's like if it
Okay.
wasn't in a dream, then my main takeaway would be like, oh, people in America think everyone thinks they're the main character because they're like the way they're talking is like they think their idea is the most interesting. But that's not really the point of the movie because it's all in a dream, and these are all like fake people that like he's interacting with.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like I don't really get it. Also, the Ethan Hawke and Julie Depley from the whatever before trilogy show up in this.
Yep.
And I'll just when I listened to Sardanicast's episode about this, Adam said like the same thing that I was thinking, which was like that like they're just showing up in this movie as a dream, like it's the characters and it's not like canon to those movies, but it's just like the main character watched those movies and they're just showing up in his dreams like that. And I think
Okay.
like
Interesting.
like Linkletter in his position, that's like a really unique and interesting thing to do to like reuse your characters in that way.
Yeah.
I think that's cool, honestly. That's like That's like
That
the
is
first time
something
I've seen
interesting.
something like that done. Like I've seen like what the fuck is his name? Kevin Smith like reuse his Jay and Silent Bob characters in random shit, and that's
Hmm.
it could be silly, it could be annoying type of thing, but this is like sort of a unique take on reusing people. So that's all I got to say about that. I might rewatch this at some point someday when I'm slightly older and I'm in a mood to give it another shot because I am willing to because I know people like
Yeah,
it. It just didn't connect with me a whole lot.
I'll
So
have to
yeah,
check it out. Yeah.
I would say watch it. Yeah, definitely.
For my last movie, the one that I watched today,
Hmm.
I, I got my one good movie in, and I'm back to
Back on the
back to
grind.
the slop. A while ago, I watched the first Fantastic Beast movie, and so
Ooh.
I finally watched the second one today.
Oh, is that the
Um,
Grindelwald crimes
that
of?
is The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's a banger right
Um,
there.
I just what
Hmm.
they lost the plot, man.
Oh
They lost
man,
it so hard. Why is it named Fantastic Beasts? But when
I never
there,
understood that really. I
it
mean, the
is
main
like
dude has like interacts with
it,
animals or something.
everything in this trilogy is about Grindelwald and Dumbledore. So why are we following
Just let
Newt
them fuck
Scamander?
already.
Yeah, they let them be gay, I guess. My Dumbledore, my favorite gay wizard.
Let's go.
Um, yeah, the I don't know, man. I think a lot has been said about this trilogy of Fantastic Beasts movies, and just the lack of coherency, how everything is CGI. I don't like it's impressive because they don't look terrible.
Hmm.
Um, they do look soulless. Like you've seen this movie, I've seen this movie a million times. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like it is very much like a product of its time, overabundance on CGI. Um, I will say the scores in most of the Harry Potter movies, and
Hmm.
including these ones, is still like it's
Okay.
classic. It's nostalgic. It's
Are they
nothing like
reusing songs or the new ones you're saying are good or what?
I would say they obviously lean heavy on like nostalgic licks
Sure.
from the original themes, but I think the composers do a good job of kind of translating it to more movies.
Hmm.
Um, However, the writing I would say is nowhere near on par. Um, the characters are some of them are enjoyable. I would say the acting is not really a problem in these movies.
Sure.
It's just the fact that these actors can only do so much with so little.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's an interesting series um, as like kind of a way to look into uh, what's her name? Why
J.K.
am I
Rowling.
blanking? J.K. Rowling. Why was I thinking of J.R.R.
Your favorite
Tolkien? I'm like,
author,
nope,
Peter. You can't forget
not
that.
him. Yes, but my favorite turf. She is just uh, doing her thing, and
I mean,
it's
she's made
still
all the
making her money.
money.
It
She's
is
wanted to,
still
and she's
making her
like,
money.
let me do some more.
Yeah, but maybe we should stop letting her cook. I don't
Yeah.
think she has it
The
anymore. She
internet has
lost the
had enough
touch.
of her, from my
Yeah,
awareness
yeah.
of
I
reading random
mean,
things.
yeah. Even if people were still on her side, I don't know how popular these movies would be. Just because
No, they'd still be the same
there's
because like the
there's
first
not
two
much
came out
there
before like I mean they're
to
happening
really.
sort of
Yeah,
alongside,
she
but like
blew up.
I feel like slightly after the second movie released is when people really started hating on her. Like around the time
Yeah,
the video game was released was like there was huge controversy over like people
yeah,
not wanting to buy it or whatever, and like nobody really
mhm,
gave a shit for like whether to support like the movies or not. But it
yeah,
was for the video game where you heard that like really strong like backlash
yeah.
against her. I
And this
feel like
most recent one, yeah,
oh
the
yeah.
first two movies were a little more acceptable to go to. Even though
You'll
I
get
don't think
judged
many
slightly
people
less.
did. Yeah, I can't. I don't remember hearing anything about their box office numbers, but
It's probably
I
decent.
don't. I kind of forgot that the third one even came out. So when I finish that tomorrow, I'll
Yeah,
see
did
if
it?
I
I wonder if I
feel
think
the
I've
same
seen the
way.
third one maybe, and I don't even remember it. Like I
Yeah.
barely remember the second one. Like I remember the first one just being a corny bunch of trash. Oh, I have seen the third one. Oh, cool.
Mm.
I don't remember what happened in this. Just
You
a bunch of
know,
bullshit.
Dumbledore and Grindelwald,
Yeah,
they get it on, I assume.
yeah, that'd be cool if true. Um, if you don't have more to say about that, then I could talk
I
about the
really
one
don't. Yeah.
that I saw today, Peter, which is a real interesting one. It's called Flower, and I don't know why it's
Flower.
called that. And I also don't know how this got onto my watch list, but it was on there anyways, and I witnessed it
Okay.
today, and I must say I was appalled and offended and disgusted by this movie. It was
Okay.
about like this girl who would like give fellatio to older men in order to expose them or to like be like what the fuck's the phrasing? What's the word of like extort? They want to like extort them and just like get their money. And so like
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like a
Like
scheme.
blackmailing them.
Yeah, exactly. That so like she would like go in and do that, and then like her friends would like record it, and they would like
Hmm.
get whatever money and stuff from it. Um, and it's domestic girlfriend.
Yeah.
You're aware of
Yes.
that, right?
I'm
So
aware of it.
it's like domestic girlfriend, but if you swap the sexes, and then you make instead of the her being in love with the stepdad, like the equivalent of if you flip it, instead of
Uh-huh.
her being wanting to bang her stepdad, it's just some other different dude of the same age. So it's
Okay.
like she like I want to spoil this movie if that's okay. I hope people don't care. I'm
Sure.
gonna spoil Flower 2018 or
He needs to get
17.
it off his chest.
Bro,
Understand this.
I've been sitting on this all day, bro. I need to unleash my inner feelings to the world. Um, and so at the end of the movie, they become step siblings somewhat early on, and then like she's like super depressed because he like says he got molested, but it turns out he was lying and he just witnessed someone else get molested, but he was like addicted to some sort of drug or something, and she like offered to give him head to like make him feel better like 3 minutes into knowing him. And it's just like a terrible example of like the I think there's like three different dudes who wrote this, and it's just like a terrible
Okay,
example of
okay.
like some
Yeah.
straight dude comes in and is like trying to write a female character and just makes her like really like you know just bad.
Bland,
Just bad. And
placating,
just like
drab, yeah, just every.
both super overly sexual and
Mhm.
childish, which is a terrible combination
Yeah.
because she's 17 also. Like that's the thing that like how they get the whatever extortion videos out there. um
Right.
and by the end, the step siblings, they like accidentally murder a dude, which like I don't know how they got away with that initially because they went to his house and they like drugged him, and they were mistaken where she thought it was like she thought he was innocent, which he wasn't really, but they killed him anyways. And like
Jesus.
they 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 kill him and they leave, and the police come to their like door the next day, and they're like, someone vandalized his garage door, the neighbor saw what's going on, type of thing, like that matched their
Hmm.
description or whatever. And it's like then they in the next scene they go to his house to apologize to him, which is first of all like the worst thing they could be doing. But they get in there and he's just sitting in the same spot he was lying earlier, and he's just dead. And what I was wondering is like, why the fuck did the police, they get a call from like the neighbor, right, that like these
Hmm.
people vandalized his thing, and then they don't go to check on him or anything. They don't like go knocking on his house. He isn't answering. They step inside. Oh, that's a dead body.
Oh wow.
Like
Yeah.
they never do
Hmm.
that. That made no sense to me. And then they try to leave to Mexico in like the most overly dramatic way, and they try to do that, and then they like, no, I don't want to keep running my whole life. And then they turn around
Classic.
and they have sex because they're in love all of a sudden, and it's like it
Of
makes no
course.
sense. and it just feels like this dude who, or dudes plural, who either have a stepsister and want to bang them, or wish that they did, like they just watched like too much porn or something. Like that's what it feels like. This feels like a porno like story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
It's
it
like a
doesn't make
fan
sense.
fiction.
And
Hmm.
they get arrested, right? But only he's in jail for some reason, even though they both had like a big part in killing them. And like the
Hmm.
parents are like dropping her off to like go visit him in jail. And if I was the parent, I would just be like so embarrassed and like wanting to kill myself and just never talk to the two of them again, and like just disown them and try to forget that they ever existed. But in this,
Yeah.
they're like still like hanging out with them and stuff. Like it makes no sense. It makes no sense, Peter, and it's so stupid. And it's just disgusting and gross and weird. And I wish Hollywood would stop letting people put their fetishes into movies that go into my eyes and through my
Yeah.
brain, and I
Well,
like think about it. Like why?
I think I might have to sit this one out. Then I don't think I'll check this one out. You
No,
know,
I'd say avoid. I'd say big avoid on this one. If you, I mean, if you're curious about like what is able to get out there, like this
Mm.
feels like a hentai, like this feels like,
Hmm.
it feels like a stupid trashy anime that somehow got out there, that it spawns from like this sort of creepo mind, and then maybe like some other people get in and they make it like maybe slightly better, because I could definitely imagine a worse version of this, you know
Hmm.
like a more anime-ified version of this, that's, oh wait, that already exists. It's called Domestic Girlfriend, and it's way better, right? Um, but yeah, that's all I have to say about this, I
All
think.
right.
And that takes us away from the movies. If we were too negative, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
but we got to see these negative things, and I believe in a balance of good and bad, and I think I sort of hit that this week,
Absolutely.
of like
Yeah.
some real nice ones, some decent ones, some shitters, and that's what life is, Peter. I mean, am I
I,
wrong? Like sometimes
no,
stuff's
you're.
cool, sometimes stuff is ass, and people, I value that, experiencing both worlds.
I wouldn't say I had a good balance of good and bad this
Yeah.
week,
Well, what you're trying
unfortunately.
to do is you're trying to catch up to like my
I
level, so
am.
you have to offset it
Yes.
a little bit. Like I was on that for a year or two maybe,
Yeah,
where I
I
was
am
just
in the
like watching more
process.
bad.
I'm in the process of achieving balance, which is a good thing because by
Equilibrium.
taking such a long time in between watching good movies,
Hmm.
it absolutely makes me appreciate them
Oh,
more.
100%.
After watching through all of the Jurassic Parks, I was on my last breath. I was at the door just banging, let me
You
in.
were
I can't
crawling
do this
towards
any longer.
Suspiria.
And,
It saved you.
Suspiria opened the door and
Yeah, I
let me
bet that
in.
slapped
And
so hard only
yeah,
because you
it
watched
was
five of the dumbest movies ever in a
the
row.
most brain dead
Yeah.
filmmaking of all time. And just having an ounce of creativity and originality is just so important. But on the tail end of that is if you inject that creativity with studio intervention and
Hmm.
your weird ass stepsister fetishes, then maybe we don't need everything to
Oh
be
man.
original.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But that's the thing. Sometimes the corporate slop, it slaps sometimes, like the
Oh yeah,
Wolverine Deadpool thing. I like that, even though
that
it
was
was a
fun.
bunch of corporate slop. Sometimes the
Yeah,
original shit is shit though, and that's what people gotta understand. It goes both ways. Most of the
it's
time,
just
it's the
no
one way,
winning.
maybe. But yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we can move on from movies then, and on
All
to
right.
TV, television, things that we did not watch these things on. So I don't know. Should we just call them shows? Because it's
Yeah,
not. I
shows.
mean, they air on TV, but now they're just on the streaming services and shit.
Yeah,
So,
but that's life these days.
have you? Did you watch any of these TV shows, Peter, in the past week?
I did not watch any TV
Okay,
this year.
here we go. This is the first time where one of us, we're gonna get to a category and then we're gonna have nothing to say about it, and that's perfectly fine because that's just how some weeks are.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two of these categories in the future for this video might be a miss from me. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
TV is not though, because I have been rewatching Neon Genesis Evangelion. This is the third time I'm
Yes.
seeing it, and I'm
This was
watching
the
it.
third. Okay.
I'm watching it with my brother, who's never seen it
Hmm.
before, and he's exiting high school. I'm like, I need to get this boy educated before he
Getting
enters the
cultured.
before he gets to the real world. He needs to get cultured the fuck up. And there's nothing really better to do that than the classic. And this anime, we haven't finished it yet, but it still like so far like stands the test of time. Like it's surprisingly funny when it needs to be.
Hmm.
Like my brother was cackling at some of the wacky jokes that happened during it, and like that song that plays, like the Goofy song, what an
Yeah,
iconic little tune there. And it has the best opening song, I think, still of any anime.
absolutely.
Like
It's a
it's
classic.
so hard to beat. Like I love a lot of different openings, but that one just beats it all, and it has a great video to accompany it. We're watching the Netflix version, which has that, like when it first came out, like it was a slightly controversial like translation of it because people thought it was like censoring things, quote censoring things, but it was
Hmm.
just like I forget what it was, but I think the original was more of like the translation was weirder, and I think we've come a long way in like translating things, especially from Japanese when watching anime and stuff. And it's still not perfect. Like in the Japanese audio, they do say the word children for like, and in English they say uh, what the fuck they say fourth children or third children
Hmm.
instead of child because they just didn't. I don't know why.
Translation.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's weird. So I don't know if that's something that should be changed or we should just accept that they have a weird phrasing about that. I don't know, but it looks really nice, and I think there's also the ending song. They got rid of the "Fly Me to the Moon." That hurts. That hurts. That like
Really.
yeah, that hurts. That like my brother doesn't get to experience that, but he could just probably look it up on YouTube or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm gonna watch the last four episodes, and I'll probably have more to say about its ending and those four episodes maybe next week if we want to spoil it a little bit. Um, or we could just save that potentially for one of those other
Go on
recording
discussion.
camera
Hmm.
videos. Yeah,
'Cause
but
I
yeah.
mean, I need to watch all of those movies.
Oh, yeah,
All
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
the
Those are interesting. Those are good.
yeah,
Most of them. The third one's
yeah. So that
so, but the other ones are good, and the fourth one has a really outstandingly done ending. Like
okay.
that just is like I love End of Evangelion, and so far that's still my favorite. I've only seen the movies, like those reboot films, once, and like they're
Hmm.
still sort of fresh in my mind, and they're at like a huge conflict, with like the television series in that movie,
Right.
um, like sort of competing for like, even though they could just coincide and it both exist like separately, but yeah, it's interesting. We could talk more about them maybe in the future. I think that's a good discussion to have because those are very important movies that exist out there, and the show even itself is a very important
Yeah.
one. And if you have watched the show and you skipped the last four episodes because people told you to, go back and watch those last four episodes. You may not enjoy them, but it's important to properly understand why that movie was made. I think,
I like them
if
more
anything
than I
else.
expected when
Same.
I
I,
watched
I
them.
don't I don't even dislike them. Even I admire
No,
them.
I kind of like them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it more next week maybe.
Mhm.
So that's the only TV show I have been witnessing, Peter. And now we are on to the next section, which is video games. Have you been playing
Video
any of these
games.
things?
I have indeed. I actually finished one up and then
Hmm.
started another. So I began this week finishing up Sifu, which is a martial arts kind of fighting game.
Yes.
Came out a few years ago, probably more like 5 now. But it is it has some of the best combat I've ever played in my life,
Mm-hmm.
along with, unfortunately, I played on hard mode. It was the hardest
It
game
whooped
I
your
have
ass.
ever played.
Damn,
Without
really?
a doubt, it doesn't even compare.
Do you
I've
play
played through all of the
much?
Souls
Okay, I
games.
was gonna ask you.
I've played hard games like this.
Wow.
Sifu on master difficulty is a different level.
Damn.
Um, I will explain kind of the main like gimmick of the game
Mm-hmm.
is when you die, you can revive, but each death adds to a counter. So when you die one time, you have a death counter of 1,
Mm-hmm.
and you will revive. Um, you start at 20 years old, you revive once, which adds your death counter of 1 to your age. So you die at 20 years old and you come back at 21.
Okay.
And then when you die at 21, you will have died twice. So you revive and you take 21 plus 2 to 23. So you
Okay.
age kind
It's
of
the
incrementally.
Fibonacci.
Yeah. But it makes the game so much more engaging and hard because of the fact that each level you play through, whatever you finish that level age-wise, is where you will start the next level off.
And when you
And
age, you become worse or something? You become like
you
slower or deal
it's
less
really
damage?
interesting. You take more damage or you have less health, but you do more damage.
Weird.
So it's really I like it because as you get older, right, you're supposed to not be hit. Works with the themes of mastery. However, it's a hard fucking game. And by the end, you are just bashing your head against the wall. It's the necessity of perfection in the game is more than you'll ever get in like a Dark Souls game, because with those games you can just reset on the boss. Like
Sure.
run-ups can be ass sometimes, but you don't have to start the entire game from scratch essentially. Each level, if you die, if you go over 70 years old, then you have to reset.
Okay. I was gonna ask if there's like a maximum age where you
Yes.
like die of old age or something.
Yeah, the max is
Okay.
70, and that's the max level or age level for the entire game. So you because each level you end at, you have to start at. If you finish level 1 at age 40, then you're going to have to stay from 40 in between 40 and 70 for the rest of the 4 levels.
So there's 5 levels in total that you need to get through. And
5 levels.
what is
yeah.
this like? Are you fighting like waves of dudes, or is it typically like boss encounters from boss encounter, or
Oh,
is it like
the levels are pretty intricately designed. It's fairly linear. You go room by room, essentially battling different groups of enemies. Sometimes they switch it up and have like one large room where you have just like a ton of enemies. Sometimes you'll go up against like a single, more like a mini boss kind of thing. And then at the end of each level, there will be the boss. And along the way, you will pick up items that kind of fill you in with the lore. You'll pick up keys that will allow you to kind of skip parts of the level.
okay?
And you can kind of almost like a Metroidvania style. But the combat is absolutely the main focus here. And you will be able to unlock certain skills through XP. There are shrines that you can get that almost acts like checkpoints, but you will also be able to get like perks from there. Overall, it's really just an interesting sense of progression because there isn't really a lot of character skill progression wise or like XP. You're not leveling up or anything, but you are just utilizing what combos you are given and what moves you are given in new and interesting ways as you continue along, and it flows incredibly well. And some of the levels are just incredibly cool design wise.
Are they
The
themed
third,
or something? They're all like visually
yes,
distinct
they're very
in
much
some way.
themed. A lot of them are kind of paying homage to martial arts films of the
Okay.
past. There's a lot of references, even down to the animations. Like certain finishers are very reminiscent of finishers that you'll see in many Hong Kong martial arts movies. It's a really cool game. I would highly recommend. Got all my roommates to play it, and now they're all playing
Yeah.
on hard, and they
I
are
heard they're on that shit.
raging.
Have you been
Yeah.
playing it separately, and then they've been playing that on like
Yes.
our mutual friend's Xbox? Is it on
I
like Game Pass
played.
or something?
No, I played it myself originally, and it was making me rage
They
so
play it on your
loud.
computer.
No, I was able to give them my copy and just
Okay.
share it with them.
Yeah.
And then they are going through my pain, and they are sympathizing now, and that makes me feel
I'm
good.
surprised some of them would be playing on hard mode. I feel like they usually don't mess with those sort of things, but
I know.
if you could rope them into it, why
I
not?
put a wager on them, and I was like, $10, you don't finish this game, and they just needed that kind of, the impetus
Incentive.
to
Yeah, why
start
not?
it and to go through with it. So I'm glad I could do that.
Yeah, man.
How about you? Any games?
Oh man, I got one. Yeah, that I feel like I could talk about for hours. Shin
Is
Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance.
that the
Um,
most recent one that came out?
yes, and
Okay.
I I don't even know where to start with it because I feel like I could say so much of it though. I also am still like I'm mostly done with it. I think I've
Hmm.
finished the third area recently, and now I got to the first dungeon in the game. 55 hours in is when the first dungeon happens,
Wow.
which is interesting.
Jesus.
Because I mean,
That is
in the
that's an
base
Atlas
game,
thing.
there was like a couple dungeons in there.
Hmm.
It's mostly just like a slightly open world type thing. And then occasionally there's dungeons because that's what the series was built upon.
Hmm.
And I finally got to maybe the first and only one in this version, which I guess I should say like this is a one of Atlas's classic enhanced re-releases. Um,
Okay.
and there's I don't think any of them deserved it as much as this one because the original SMT5 was Switch only. And so it was
Right.
running at 30 FPS,
Yeah.
looking like
Yeah.
crap. The stuff was rendering, far away, was like at 10 frames. It just did not run optimally. The people complain a lot about the story of the original
Hmm.
and varying stuff like that. I don't really care that much to be honest because I mean I don't know I think people sort of overemphasize the importance of the stories in games. Like if it exists, I think that's fine, and there's like a lot of cool potential that can be done exclusive to video games for like a story. But they're not always necessary, and for the SMT games, they sort of should matter a little bit. I've only played 5 and 3, and 3 I think has an excellent story.
Hmm.
It's a very like not in your face story all the time. Like it's still mostly like you're going around and it's mostly combat and dungeon crawling exploration stuff. Like that is most of the game, and then every once in a while you get a cutscene, and like those cutscenes are fine and good. But there's some silly stuff that happens in Five's story that a lot of people have mixed feelings about, and I sort of do too. But I also don't really care that much. Like that wasn't really what dragged down my opinion about it. It was mostly just its technical limitations. And I'm playing this on PS5, and all of those things are fixed. It looks great. It runs at 60 FPS. I can actually like see the character models. I feel like for the first time ever, I'm like, wow, this is what they really look like. It's amazing. And it does this interesting thing at the beginning where you pick between two options, and one of the options sends you to the original story, and then the
Okay.
other option sends you to the new one. And so in the original story, you travel through essentially like four main areas, and in the new one, they do the first two again, but then they replace the third one with a new one. And I don't know if there's a fourth one after that because the third area is kind of big. So I'm not really sure yet, but they do add a new set of villains who I have very mixed feelings about.
Hmm.
Um, and like they do change up some certain plot things. One of my favorite draws to the series, at least of the two games that I've played, is that it feels like it is you the player against the entire world. Like the world, typically RPGs are about saving the world, and that's sort of what this is. But it's like the world has already become messed up. Like it's already become
Okay.
messed up,
Yeah.
and you're experiencing that, and you have the potential to either change it in some major way or like revert it somehow or like some other thing. And like it's all about like the different endings of like the alignment system that it takes from D&D, which it uses to sort of mixed degrees. And to me that's what it is. It's you against the world, and your party consists of the demon allies you sort of pick up and fuse along the way, and it's atypical of a JRPG to have like, because normally it's like, oh, you pick up this party member from the story, maybe you do this optional side quest and you gain this party member or something
Hmm.
like that. And in this it's like an ever changing constant like shuffling of like, I get to this new level of my character, and now I have potentially four new party members. And so like leveling up in this game feels like so important, because in most games you get like maybe some stat increases and you maybe like learn a new skill or something or whatever for the class, and like in this it's just the stats and then the potential to fuse and recruit new demon allies, and like it makes that like it makes leveling up like feel special even at late levels,
Mhm.
especially at late levels, because the higher level dudes are just like nuts, you know, and like the there's just like so much build potential you could do with it still, because you could just make and fuse the dudes, but then there are also these things called essences which you can use to either give yourself or demon allies skills from different demons. So like if they don't have a skill in the list that like you want on them, you could just give it to them by using the essence of a different demon. So like if you have like a physical user who doesn't have charge, you could just give them charge, you know, and that's
Pretty
awesome.
cool.
And
Yeah.
like they use this sort of proficiency system where like some demons are better at physical skills and electric skills, but worse at ice or something, and they have a plus and minus like modifiers to the MP cost of the skills, and I think also the power and accuracy of them. Though I'd have to double check on that, but at least the MP cost, and like everything about it, there's just like so much customization to like everything, and it's a game where you sort of have to work at it, but in theory, you could make your favorite like little demon dudes, which are like all very well designed and stuff. But you could potentially make it like your favorite, just like the best one ever. Like it
Hmm.
requires a decent amount of work, but it's something you can do. And so, like to me, that's what the games are all about. It's just you are like the silent protagonist. You sort of get to customize your own character, and then your party members are just this ever changing things from this like huge list of creatures and monsters and mythological beings, and it's really awesome. And in this, they sort of do something weird where they give you human party members for a good chunk of the game. Like they've only, I think, have now left me forever. I don't think I'm getting them back, but for like so much of the game, they are just there and ever constant, and it no longer feels like it is just. I mean, I don't know. Like, should that be what it is now? Like, I'm now with these. It feels like the Persona games, right? Where it's like I'm traveling with my anime buddies, and we're going out and kicking ass together. Which, like, to me, that's not really what that is. If I wanted to play something like that, I have the Persona games. I have
Yeah.
a million other JRPGs that exist, and they sort of just exist and persist here. And the goal of having them be more proactive and like being in your party was because they were in the main plot of the original and they were underdeveloped. And I think this is an attempt to like develop them more, because the two of them who join you for a decent amount of it, like every after every main story event and or throughout it, and at the end of like every side quest, they have like unique things to say like about what happened. And the main problem with the characters in the SMT games is that they're all sort of supposed to like represent a different alignment, that by the end of the game you're supposed to like choose and align with one of them or none of them. And it I think is an interesting system, and Nocturne I think handles it much better than 5. Where I don't know, 5 is just like it feels like there's no character to them, that they are only the thing like they represent like whatever ending that you choose. It's just that's what they're all about. And it's, as a guy who loves characters, it doesn't sit well with me totally.
Hmm.
And so that's why I'm like not necessarily very into the story or the plot or anything. I'm just all about that gameplay and all that. Like playing through it sort of a second time makes me appreciate the layout and the world design. Like it's fairly intricate, and like there's stuff to look at and explore all over the place. There's constantly things to like look at and get, and like just little narrow like things on the map to check out. And it's not an overly large map. I'd say it's like the perfect size.
That's good.
Yeah. And I don't know how much more I should say about it. I'd say like 75% of the way through it. I'll definitely have more to say about it at a later point, but I am enjoying it. Some of the new side quests feel a little one-noted. Like I don't want to say that the new stuff was rushed completely, but I did notice like this text box, one of the new text boxes for like an optional thing. It had like the UI covering the lettering or something. Like, and
Hmm.
that was like the only
Quality's not there.
that was like the but that's only just like one thing. You know what I mean? Like that's just one thing in this grand like uh however many hour game. Um and like but that does to me indicate maybe something was happening that didn't pass QA type of thing, or
Hmm.
they just didn't have time to go back and change it in. But that's just one example of one like very optional text because like there's this whole new place called the Demon Haunt where you get to interact with them and like they give you items there or sometimes increase their stats or something, and they like for each demon ally they have like a bunch of different things that they could be saying to you like in dialogue, and so it's just like another level of like them just looking at the lore of whatever creature it is and then like explaining like whatever
Extrapolating
they
it,
are
yeah.
or like judging you for like doing random things and stuff, and it's cool and it's interesting and it's nice, and there's a lot of new demon dudes in this one. All of them that have been included that I've seen so far are really well designed, just like all the existing ones. And that's someone else too. The designs for all the demons is quite awesome, and that's all I'll
Hmm.
say about it for now. I suppose I definitely have like way more. Like that is just like you know
That would be a
the
whole,
surface level thoughts about
yeah.
everything. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying my time with it, and I could see this being one of my favorites because the original was already pretty high up there, but this is just like taking everything and improving on it slightly, or like a
It's
decent
good that
amount.
it got that treatment. Yeah.
Totally. Even though Atlas, it's all about that. For the Persona games are slightly worse with 4 and 5. With those enhanced re-releases.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, the amount of time that I put into each of them, I'm fine buying Persona 5 twice because I'm putting like however many 100 hours into each of them. Like,
True.
I'm honestly I'm fine with that. Like, whatever. But like, it's kind of silly. Though for 3, I don't think they're doing that with Reload. It's just the DLC, which is definitely overpriced. It's $35 to get because episode Igus just came out recently,
Okay.
and the only way you buy it is the expansion pass. Like you can't just buy that DLC separately, so you have to buy that, which comes with episode Igus, but also like a bunch of just DLC costumes or something. So it's like I don't care about
Purchasing
those. Just give me the
add-ons.
thing. But it's you have to pay more money. It's stupid. It's silly.
It's so complicated now
Yeah.
to try and buy like the full version of a game.
Every game that comes out now has uh the standard version and then the
Yep.
deluxe version and then whatever the other word they use like
Yeah.
super deluxe version or whatever.
There's like the digital deluxe, which is
Oh
just like
man.
I don't know, like there's something that's like a pre-order deluxe.
Yeah.
Then there's like the legendary editions, like director's cut. There's the fucking game of the year pass. There's
Yeah, man.
it's just too much sometimes.
Oh yeah. That's where you gotta hit the Scott the Waz videos where he goes over all the differences and shit. It's like, that's right. I've heard of
Yeah,
those. All right.
something to help you.
Yeah. That's all I got for gaming though. And I'll probably have more to say about it next time. But Peter, what was the thing you started recently?
I just started playing through Prey,
Hmm.
which is developed by Bethesda and Arcane Studios. Um, and I'm fairly early on into it, I believe, but I am enjoying it. It came out a while ago, like close to maybe a decade ago now. Um, but it has been on my radar a long time because I love the BioShock games and the Dishonored games. And this is by the company that did the Dishonored games. And it is in very much in line with a BioShock kind of System Shock kind of Half-Life game structure, um, where it's kind of a survival horror kind of RPG to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And the world is really, really cool. Very interesting kind of sci-fi future, like a new take on it that I haven't really seen done a whole lot, where it's very Art Deco, almost like a futuristic take on like what um, it would be like if the kind of 20s, 1920s, 30s style
Mm-hmm.
of architecture and design kind of was transported to the future. And the game does a really good job of getting you invested in the mystery. It is a very interesting premise, and I'm pretty early on, so I won't say much more than this. But I'm enjoying my time, and it is much cooler than I would have expected, I think.
Mm-hmm. So it's a first person sort of RPG, single player RPG.
Yeah, pretty light on the RPG elements, I would say. It's much more like a BioShock kind of game where you are like essentially scavenging around, trying to piece together the pieces of like a broken puzzle in a broken world.
Okay.
Um, and it's much more about the kind of horror and um, like the survival instincts that you have to get new skills to upgrade and um, I'm
Okay.
enjoying
I
myself.
haven't played any of those that you mentioned, the Dishonored or the BioShock, which
I
I would like to get
would
to those eventually. I actually own
highly,
I
highly
own the
recommend.
the BioShocks. I own the both of them,
Yeah,
the 1 and 2 and Infinite. They've been
they
on
are
my goddamn
some of my,
Steam backlog
yeah,
for years.
they're some of my favorites of all time. So I would highly recommend both the Dishonored and the BioShock. They are all excellent, excellent games.
Okay. Yeah, cool, man. So yeah, I guess that does it for video games. So now we can
Yeah,
move on to music, Peter. And I got nothing. I don't listen to music right now.
he doesn't
The
do
the the
anything.
the times where I usually listen to music is now being eaten up by Critical Role, which I don't know, maybe we could
Mm,
talk about that at some
catching
point.
up. Yeah,
I'm on campaign 3 right now. That's my music update.
that is a lot of, content to get through, so that's understandable. Uh, I will kind of give a brief update on like some interesting
Oh, no need to be
music
brief.
that came out.
Do anything you
Um,
want.
because I myself am a very large music enjoyer, I
Oh
would
yeah.
say.
Oh yes.
So I've been keeping an eye out on some good things that came out last week. Um, Neela Furtado, who is I believe she's a UK artist, just dropped. She is a bit of like an indie rock, indie pop artist. Um,
Neil for
but this
Nyanya?
Nilufer Nyanya, yeah,
Nilufer Nyanya. Can you
yeah,
spell that and send that? What is this?
Nilu, yeah. So
I was
she
spelling
dropped
it
an
like I
album.
thought you at first you said Neil for like the word Neil and then for and then Nyanya. Like Nyanya is their name and you're supposed to be like praising them or something. Okay. This is how it is. People probably know this and I don't. I see.
She's been getting a lot more buzz recently, but she just dropped an album finally. She had been dropping singles for a long time, but it is a very good one. Um, Pretty dreamy, kind of psychedelic production,
Mm-hmm.
um, but also solid songwriting, um, good flow to the album. Very, very solid stuff. Some other things that came out this week was the new Floating Points album, who is a bit of a techno IDM producer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he dropped a really good album with Farrah Sanders um, a few years ago, and that one was more of a kind of minimalist jazz, electronic, ambient kind of piece, whereas this new album he dropped, Cascade, is much more in his original wheelhouse of being like tech house and really interesting electronic music that just has some fantastic production and some really interesting beats. Highly, highly recommend that.
Okay.
Um, there was also Ginger Root, who dropped an album. He has been kind of on the up and up as an indie artist, coming through with some really interesting city pop slash like 60s, 70s pop revival. Um, Really fun, kind of energetic. stuff. His album Shinban Gumi just came out, and if you are interested in some like kind of bright, pretty summery retro pop, definitely check that out. There was also Joba of Brockhampton fame who dropped an album. Haven't seen many people talking about it, but it's fairly solid. I think out of all of the Brockhampton group to start coming out with their own solo efforts, this new album from Joba, Russell Waring, is probably up there for some of my favorites. Very, very dramatic. Joba's voice is obviously very theatrical and earnest. Really does well with the kind of production he's chosen to go with. Very kind of ballad heavy and dramatic, as I said. So check that out if you want. And then finally, there's an album dropped by Colin Stetson, who is one of the more interesting artists that I've kind of started to listen to recently. Just a ridiculously talented saxophonist who does a ton of other kind of horn instrumentals. But his albums feature some of the most interesting instrumental work I've ever like come across. Essentially what he does with the saxophone is continuously play the same note as he's breathing. So essentially while he's blowing, he can also breathe in, pause, crazy phrasing. But
what's this man's name? How do you spell it? I was trying, but I was messing up.
Yeah, Colin Stetson.
Oh, Colin. I thought you said Con.
Yeah.
I'm stupid.
Yeah, Colin Stetson dropped The Love It Took to Leave You. His albums are very strange, purely instrumental for the most part, but just some of the most kind of avant-garde and experimental saxophone work that you'll ever hear.
Cool.
The amount of like texture and emotion he can bring with just like a single breath, essentially, is really, really intriguing and very impressive. But yeah, check that out if you would like. That brings me mostly to what I've been listening to.
Those are all like things that they made within the past week that was released?
Yes.
Damn.
Yep. Those were all of those albums came out last week. Cool. It has been a very, very good year for music, and I don't think it's supposed to stop, so we'll keep you updated weekly if we can.
Exactly. Well, all these guys are on my list now that eventually in 10 years I'll get to these people. And then we'll hear that update about it if we're still around then.
Awesome.
And I expect this is how the music section's normally going to go. I'm going to be like, I didn't do it. I didn't listen to it, guys.
And I'll give you recommendations.
And then Peter can just do his thing because, you only need one man to take music notes from on this channel, and it's this dude right here. Good old Pete.
It will always be correct.
Which brings us to the next section, which may or may not also have Peter taking the reins for the only speaker, which is books.
Yes, I assume then you have not been reading anything
in the past week. No, I'm currently reading Vinland Saga and The Way of Kings. I haven't touched either of them in quite a minute. The Vinland Saga I like overall. I got some slightly mixed feelings about certain parts of it that I don't want to say because spoilers. And then The Way of Kings, it's like the greatest thing ever, and I'm only a third of the way through, if even.
That's good to hear.
And I haven't even, but I've been slacking because I've been the SMT5 Vengeance is just like something I could just be doing throughout the whole, day, evening, whatever.
We'll definitely have to have a conversation on
100%.
Brandon Sanderson and the Stormlight Archive. Because I myself am a big fan, so I'm glad that you're finally delving into that.
Yeah, it's been like a month or two since I've read it. It's been like a long time. It's been way longer than a month or two. It's probably been like 3 or I think I read it in the summer.
At least you enjoyed it.
I started it. Yeah, it is cool. Yeah. What books, Peter?
Yes, on my end, I have been reading a book called Five Decembers by James Kestrel, I believe. Um, it's a interesting kind of neo-noir. It was written fairly recently, just a couple years, or yeah, just a couple years ago, I think, maybe last year. Um, but it's
2021.
essentially a historical noir novel um, that takes place right before World War II. And it's a mystery. Private Eye, gets a case that, goes south very quick. I don't want to spoil anything because it is a very, very cool book.
Okay.
The prose is like incredibly dry and like quick and witty, very typical for the kind of, stand-up private eye that you can think of. But at least this protagonist, he's got enough depth and characterization that you can really connect with him beyond the kind of gruff and like jaded exterior.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very well done, and the mystery itself is very, very engaging. Gets right to it, doesn't waste any time, and it goes places that I definitely have not expected.
Okay.
So
Are
I
you big
definitely recommend it.
into noirs or neo noirs or something for reading? Or
I'm not normally, but I'm trying to expand what
there
I've
you
been
go.
reading. This recommendation came through the YouTube channel
Mm.
Man Carrying Things,
Okay.
who mostly does short kind of commentary things, just like YouTube high cues, kind of like 1 minute or 2 minute long videos, but
Mm-hmm.
he has some really, really solid book recommendations that he drops every once in a while.
Okay.
So thank him for
I
that.
don't. I don't. I don't follow any book YouTubers. I didn't think they
Yeah.
existed. I thought we were gonna be the first, Peter.
Oh,
What's
no,
happening?
there's a large contingency out
Okay.
there, and
Okay.
they have some good recommendations every once in a while.
Okay. Have you read anything else by this author, dude? The James Kestrel.
I have
This
not.
man.
This is my first,
Okay.
but I might have to check out more from him.
All right. Yeah. That's the only book you've been reading.
Yes, for
All right.
this week.
Cool. Then we could move on to YouTube, which
Hmm.
I've I've watched so many YouTube videos in the past week. I'm not going to talk about all of them or even most of them. I think
Like
instead,
interesting,
yeah, we could just for this, we could
channels you
just
found.
yeah, because we probably have our own like normal usual like rotation of dudes that we like
Hmm.
watch like whenever they upload shit or whatever. I don't know how you approach YouTube, but I sort of have a strict subscription count that like only goes up maybe like by two or three per year. Like I don't follow a whole lot.
I
I don't
don't.
branch a
Yeah,
whole lot. Like
no,
part of that's maybe my
neither do
problem. I
I.
don't want to click on like a YouTube video on like my home page that's like uploaded by some dude I don't know, and then like I watch and I'm just like that was dumb because I remember watching Quentin reviews, and he like
Hmm.
made this like 6 hour long iCarly video, and like when I part of this is my fault also because when I approach YouTube videos and media in general, I stick with it all the way to the end typically. Like I don't quit it unless it's really really suffering and I just don't want to do it. And most of the times that's video games that are like too hard for my baby brain.
Hmm.
And that video I just suffered through it and because it was so long and it was just him. No shade to him. I mean, he's doing his own thing and I'm sure people love him and he has more fans and followers than us and I don't need them going here and attacking us if that's what would happen, but it just wasn't for me is the nicest way I could say that.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I usually don't branch out a whole lot. I forget what I was saying that for, what the reasoning, what the point of me explaining that was. But
Essentially,
anyways,
yeah.
uh, so yeah, we'll just give some of the highlights, I guess. And the main highlight of stuff I've been watching this week is a certain Let's Play from a certain most popular Let's Player on the planet. And
Mhm.
do you know the sort of controversy, Peter, that happened recently with Chugga Conroy?
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
No,
Okay.
no.
Well, I guess I won't get into it too much, but basically he was outed for being a little weird and a little socially inept with people of the opposite sex. There was basically this girl he was in online communications with for like about a year, and then she came out and like I guess exposed his ass for like I don't know, just being like
Uh,
send feet pics or some shit weird like that.
just freak
Um,
shit, yeah.
and like the stuff like this, it doesn't it does tarnish my image of them, but like I don't know, I'm one who could for the most part separate the art from the artist, and like this man has like I've been watching his let's plays for years, and he's had like a huge like sort of influence on like my game outlook and like stuff that I've like tried uh like based on his recommendation and him playing them and whatnot. And so like it does definitely affect how I feel about him
Hmm.
as a person, but I could accept that like the heroes of my childhood are also just like flawed human beings like you and I. Like I hope that neither of us would do the thing that he did, which was
I
all
don't
I
think
could
we're
summarize
anywhere
it
of that. Yeah.
as sussy bokkery is what I label
Ah,
that as.
uh-huh.
Um,
That's a good way to put it.
exactly. And so if that like uh, whatever information about that turns you away from this person and you don't want to watch his stuff anymore, I think that's perfectly fine and reasonable. For me, I stuck around because he did Black and White 2, which was a great Let's Play, and it taught me a lot about a game that I loved and thought I knew a decent amount about, and he just showed us that there was so much more to that than I would have ever thought. And he takes a big break, and the number one thing that you need if you have a controversy and are trying to come back, the number one thing you need on your side is nostalgia. And he plays to that by playing Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed, which is a post game side story that's attached to the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles. And
Hmm.
Xenoblade Chronicles is his one of his most popular Let's Plays that he did like 10 years ago. It's I think still my favorite Let's Play by him, but I do really like his Majora's Mask one. And I mean Chugga Conroy and I share our favorite video games, which is that game, which is Xenoblade Chronicles, and like him playing Future Redeemed. Honestly, to me, is sort of a big deal because when they first started showing the trailers for Future Redeemed, the location that this post game was taking place in was an unused area in the first game. It was in like the game's code or something, and the developers would use it for testing. And Chugga Conroy like explained in like one of his last videos of that Let's Play like about that area and like made theorizations about like it's on the Bionis' shoulder or whatever, and it would be here. And he like eventually interviewed or like got to get like he like wrote interview questions for like a different YouTube channel like Game Explain for them to
Hmm.
like interview the devs about it. And so like when I saw those trailers for that like area, I was like, oh shit, that's the thing he was talking about. And like
That's
I would have
pretty
never
cool.
had that
Yeah.
really cool realization for it. Without that Let's Play existing. And I love the that I guess it's not a remake they call it. They call it definitive edition, whatever. It's a remake, remaster, whatever you want to call
Hmm.
it. And that post game thing, it's not the greatest thing ever because Xenoblade has a really good track record with like their expansion, like side story things. Like Xenoblade 2's Torna is like the greatest DLC ever released, and Future Redeemed is not DLC. It's just packaged within the
Original
definitive edition of the
content. Yeah.
game, so they can't like whatever put extra money and time into it. And they were making Xenoblade 3 alongside it, and I only know this because I'm watching this man's Let's Play and he's explaining it to me. And yeah, it's the stuff that he's showing. I already pretty much experienced that because it's pretty short. It's like not the biggest thing, and it's fairly easy to like get and see everything. Though he did show off a really cool like little like dialogue thing that like one of the characters has that like points to and references Xenoblade 3, which hasn't come out yet
Mm.
at the time of like that being
Yeah.
released, but since they're developed alongside each other, they could like incorporate random things. So that was a cool little thing, and it was just a pleasant time overall. And I think I will continue to watch this man. Hopefully, he doesn't do anything else beyond the sussy bakuri. Like I hope that's just like a one time thing also, you know what I mean? Like I believe in him as a
Hopefully.
person
Yeah.
if his goal is to improve upon himself and not be weird, that would be cool. So yeah, that's pretty much my update. In addition to just watching all the D&D stuff, because that new version is coming out. Which I don't know if you've been watching videos about that, but there's the 2024 version of D&D that people
Yes.
are ranking the subclasses or talking about what spells have been changed or making builds already, and I love that stuff.
It
And
is always cool to kind of get caught up on the new
oh yeah,
builds and the new combos
it's
and
fun to
like
think
all the
about.
theory crafting
Yeah,
of the D&D characters. Um,
totally.
on
That's my
my
update
end
though.
of YouTube, um, not a ton of super consequential watching.
Hmm.
A lot of sports highlights. NFL has started. We're in week 3 now, and my team, the Packers, they're doing all right. Jordan Love injured,
Why do you
not
like
great.
these mans as a Chicago person? Do you have
I
family
know
there or
I'm literally
something?
living in Chicago, but all of my family is in Milwaukee,
Okay.
and I've
Cheesehead
always
ass.
preferred, I've mostly preferred Wisconsin teams just because they win more,
Yeah, exactly.
but not really. It's mostly just Packers that I support from Wisconsin.
Do we need a sports
While
section just for you, Peter, to
I
in
might,
addition
I
to all of
might,
these?
depending on what sports are coming out,
Okay.
because
Yeah, why not?
NFL is obviously popping off now. Very interesting games. Saints looking good. Texans looking good.
Hmm.
Um, who would have thought? Obviously, Texans are going to be pretty strong, but who would have thought the Ravens go 0 for 2? 49ers are 1 for 1. That's looking like could be a weird, very weird season for the NFL. But hey, so long as the Bears and the Lions lost last week, I'm happy. Um, but beyond that, I was checking out some, Red Letter Media.
Oh
I was
man,
looking into what
that.
they were saying about the Alien movies,
Oh yeah,
especially Prometheus
sure.
and Covenant, which
Hmm.
came. They literally dropped that episode like 9 years ago. It's ridiculous. It's
I
so
love watching
insane. It's
their.
such a time
I love watching
capsule.
anything on that channel. That's one of my favorites, like of
They
all
have
time.
like one of the oldest channels that I'm subscribed to,
Yeah,
and it goes deep
I've
with
only
them.
been
They have
through it
been doing the
recently.
same thing. They've been
Yeah,
doing the same thing for the entire time,
but they're
and
so entertaining.
they don't have to change anything.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Did you see their most recent upload about the ghost shit? That look that's I'm so hyped for that.
yes,
I don't think I've been more hyped for a YouTube video that like cuz most of the time the YouTube videos they just pop up, they happen. You're not like aware of like this is a thing that's going to eventually come
right.
out. You know what I mean? But like
Now,
whatever
now that
stupid ghost thing they do, I'm so ready to see that.
yeah. Um,
It's going to be awesome.
outside of that, I don't think there was much YouTube watching outside of those things, though.
Okay.
Lots of sports highlights.
All right, cool. Well then, yeah, I guess we could wrap things up here. Then I feel like this is a reasonable amount of time to get through a thing. Like we could go even a little bit longer or shorter,
Hmm.
one way or the other. I feel like there's going to be some weeks where it's going to be, like I said, one way or the other. Um, and as we do this more and more, we'll get more proficient in explaining the things that we want to discuss and talk about. And over time, it could be good also because, especially for the video games, it's like some of those take a long ass time to do.
Hmm.
So it's like, here I am at this stage of it, and then now I'm here. And same thing with sort of the TV and books and other things. And maybe we'll get those updates in at another time. Until then, YouTube outro.
Yes, we have rounded out our week.